financial interest with ASAHI. What is a double lumen catheter? Probably everybody knows it right now, because also in the GISE CTO session we talked about these microcatheters. But just to repeat it once more, it's one monorail catheter lumen that's ending in the tip, and there is a side port with an OTW lumen. And this is basically something that's on the market for many, many years. The first I remember, I think, was the twin pass. But it was a bulky device, it was fragile sometimes, so it wasn't used really much. There were some applications. Now we have not a flood, but we have a huge field of side hole or double lumen catheters, and the Sasuke is one of them. And as you see in the comparison, he is a little bit like a Caravelle or a Corsair Caravelle tip, so very sleek in profile. And you see that the different microcatheters, they have the exit lumen in a different distance from the end, and it's very important to locate where is the exit actually. So you need to have some hints, where is the exit? And so the markers should help you, but you must know the markers on your microcatheter that you are using. The Euro CTO Club has come together to formulate kind of an up-to-date report, an expert panel, without much studies based on, but with a lot of experience in the daily life, and it's already in publication in Euro Intervention. We basically show 6 of the different options where you can use the double lumen catheter in CTOs. That is the side branch access, that is parallel wiring, I think, which is very important, and increase maybe the penetration of parallel wiring, which is a forgotten technique, because the US boys, they called it the old boys technique, the old European technique. But parallel wiring is very effective. Then you are lucky, you can re-enter in the distal. You can access side branches distal to a CTO, which is very important. We saw today one live case where actually the technique number E should have been applied to save. If you lose the distal one of 2 branches, the procedure cannot be called a success. And we have tricks to do that with the reverse wire technique. And actually, by chance, I have an example with me. And we can use it to get into very difficult access. And we will see a lot of examples during the course of this presentations. I just brought you some non-CTO application. Look at this ostial LED occlusion. This was even not tried by another center because they understood the problem here. It's a reverse angle, it's very calcified, and how do you get into the LED without destroying the vessel? Very easy. You advance the wire into the circumflex, which you do anyway. You bring a double lumen microcatheter with a folded XTR, folded back with an extra tip on the wire. Here I can use a very long segment. In a CTO setting, the protrusion of the wire should be maybe only 1 or 2 centimeters. And then you remove the double lumen microcatheter, so you can now work with this protruded, retroflected reverse wire. It goes into a side branch in the proximal circ, as you see here. And now it easily enters the LED. The ideal wire, in my experience, is the XTR. And now you go forward, forward, forward. You see the knuckle unfolding. There is still 1 knuckle left, but this is overcome by a microcatheter. So I remove the double lumen catheter. I have gained access to the LED, and that's the final result. Yeah. So we solve the problem with a very nice technique that is only possible with a dual lumen catheter. The more important techniques for CTO settings, of course, is getting into the side branch. And the anatomy of CTOs is very typically often like this one, that we have the occlusion at the level of a side branch. And we may have a blunt tip or not, but by getting into the side branch, supporting the antegrade wire over the double lumen catheter through the OTW lumen, we increase the force of the wire by up to 5 times. So a Gaia 3 becomes a Gaia 15. No, Gaia 3 is 6 grams. So Gaia 3 is almost 6 grams, so you have a 30-gram wire. Careful, but it penetrates. And then, of course, you advance, then you change to a microcatheter with a trapping technique, and then you advance into the lesion. And the other thing, I think, which is very important and hopefully brings back parallel wiring, because it makes things so much easier and efficient, is by, of course, the first wire is subintimal or inside the plaque and you can't advance, but you know the wire gives you an idea where the next wire needs to go. The double lumen catheter supports the wire advancement, and more often than not, you succeed. And if you look at our data from Darmstadt in Germany, near Frankfurt, we do about 50%, 55% antegrade procedures. The rest is retrograde. Of these antegrade procedures, about 40% are parallel wiring. And the success rate of parallel wiring as one point in the strategic approach is up to 75%. So, more often than not, we are successful. And if you look in the literature, ADR never reaches this success rate, because ADR is much more complex and difficult. Unfortunately, if you look in our Euro CTO database, parallel wiring, we use it in 42%, is just used in 12%. It's even gone down in 2020 to 9.8%. But ADR has no penetration in Europe anyway. But what is important, dual lumen catheter has increased over the same time, the last 5 years, from 6.8 to 10.5. In my own experience in the cath lab, I use dual lumen catheters now 40% of my procedures in some capacity or other. So I think they are available and were available for many years. But the new DLCs, and the Suzuki is an excellent example, have an extremely improved profile. And if you look at our statement paper, expert panel paper, we have video examples where we went retrograde into the PLA situation and worked from retrograde with a dual lumen catheter. So this boost of use is all due to an improved technology, and I think it should improve that everybody of you who is failing with the first wire leaves the wire in place and comes with a second wire, because the first wire changes the architecture of the vessel. So this is a very bold statement, but I think classical ADR is outlived by the advancement. ADR is a technique that was developed 13 years ago and hasn't developed any further. Many instances in daily cath lab, and I showed you one, outside the CTO, are made so much easier with dual lumen catheters. Thank you very much. So we will reserve discussion.